everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited to see what the runes have to say for this week ahead. And I hope you guys had a really good full moon and the blood moon and the lunar eclipse that took place in Scorpio, both sidereal Scorpio and tropical Scorpio. So it was a lot of Scorpio. A lot of very deep, emotional, moving energy. So particularly important for those who have Scorpio placements or placements with a heavy Mars influence, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars in the traditional ideology of astrology, and Pluto later on in modern astrology, although Mars always still has a good influence with that. So I also hope that you guys are doing well with the Mercury retrograde, because it's been a little bit there's been a lot of experiences of frustration, moments of lack of communication, loss of communication, people coming and going. There's been a lot of there's been a lot around how communication functions in our lives and the importance of communication, how we're able to connect with others through our thoughts, through our words, and how they relate to our actions in our life. So really cool stuff. I'm sure it's been good for many of you. I'm sure maybe a little bit frustrating for most of us as well. So I wish you a very good Mercury retrograde as it continues. I believe it'll be finishing later this month. So we still have an opportunity to observe how we relate to communication, how we relate to Mercury's energy also as the cycle pump, the messages that we receive from our intuition or from the other side, or from what we consider to be the other side, right? Because in my personal perspective, there really is no difference between our world and the next, right? It's just a matter of, I don't know, dimensional dissonance or a matter of, you know, a very thin movement between spaces. It's not as far away as we think it is. So let's see what the runes have to say. Say whoops. Okay, let's see. Oh, well, that's pretty neat. Okay, so for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. I like to start in the middle and ripple outwards because time is not linear in my perspective, or it has a particular linear quality to it depending on how we relate to it. But a lot of the ancient traditions and the traditions that I ascribe to and I connect with look at time more as aqueous. It's like water, right? So it ripples and does all that really fun stuff. So I like to start in the center, moving outward. So I look towards here and see what's going on. So for the beginning of this week, that means today into tomorrow, I'm seeing this blank rune energy, which means to me that there's kind of a stillness. There's a stillness that we're experiencing right now. Perhaps it may be a stillness that is frustrating for us because we may want to get started on things, or we may want projects to jumpstart or begin, right? But I think it's an opportunity for us for the next 2 days to really recover our energy, to give ourselves an opportunity to reflect on why we want to move so fast or why we want to manifest certain things. I know I just recently had a thought earlier today about the ways in which I've attempted to manifest certain things in my life, and how a part of it is just letting go and allowing that manifestation to take place in its own time. You can't force a tree to grow, and you can't yell at a flower to bloom, right? All of these elements in nature require time, and time not in the way of like it's gonna take forever, but time as a dance, right? You can't rush a dance. You can't force a dance to be something it's not. Things move in their own rhythms, and those rhythms are important to the biological processes that that thing is connected to, right? At least in this reality. So I see that energy here for the next 2 days. Then I have something really curious happening here, because it feels to me that there is a wealth of creative inspiration that is waiting to be tapped into over the weekend. And as we continue to release any kind of expectations to the outcomes of our manifestations, it's not to say that you can't have those expectations, or that those expectations don't allow you to create appropriate boundaries to say what you want and what you don't want, or how you want that thing to manifest or how you don't want it to manifest, because those are extremely important, especially in the process of welcoming things into our lives. But what I see is that this is giving an opportunity to tap into a creative potential that happens out of serendipity, that happens out of the beauty that comes the beauty that comes with things that surprise us, or when we allow the universe to bloom in the way that it does. For example, I'm seeing the image of a garden, and you're walking through it and you have all these beautiful plants that you've planted yourself, right? And then suddenly you happen upon this curious bloom that you haven't seen before. And it's not quite something that you planted. It's something that came from a traveling bird, or from an errant message from a wandering ant, right? And they planted that seed for you. And that seed was for you, and as it grew, it became this flower that you never thought you needed. But it's something that now you see, wow, like, how beautiful this flower in my garden. How beautiful I can now cultivate this thing that I didn't even know I needed, or that I didn't even know that I was looking to manifest. So it's giving me that energy, because we have Lagos here in the upright. Lagos is the lake. It represents the depth, the profundity of our creative selves, the profundity of our emotional being, also our sexual selves, right? Sexuality is not limited to the action of sex, or sexuality is not limited to simply the places that we go, or simply the ways in which we arrive at a certain psychological or emotional location, right? Sexuality is the essence of this universe, insofar as everything is interconnected, constantly intermingling. The ways in which the dynamics of atoms, the dance of atoms, the dance of skin on air, and air on water, and water on fire, right? Like all of these, the ways in which the universe is so intimately connected with itself. That is sexuality. It is the process of the eros, of the erotic. And so to see Lagos here, the lake, the profundity of that sexual energy, doesn't necessarily mean, being a part of sexual practices at this time, if that may even call to you. But it is about the ways in which we connect with the world around us, and how we choose to connect with it. And we also have Sowilo here, which Sowilo is the sun. It's one of my favorite runes to see in a reading, because the sun represents joy, abundance, prosperity, and to see these cusping, or like just gently cupping the, well, that's a word, gently cupping the waste of these next 2 days, right? Of that silence, of this moment of going into ourselves to retreat, right? We have this beautiful energy that's waiting for us. But then we also have Haglas, which is the storm. And underneath the storm, we have Yera, which is the rune of the year, the fulfillment, the cycle of seasons, the coming and the going, the giving and the taking. It is the reciprocity of life. It's also connected, for those who do the tarot, to the wheel of fortune, right? The ways in which the wheel of the year keeps turning. And so to see all of these together with Yera hiding under Haglas, we may find ourselves over the weekend in a storm of social activity, or a storm of celebration, or a storm of creative energy or creative potential, perhaps even a storm of anger or a storm of frustration, all of these leading to greater creativity in the end. And that, underneath that storm, when the storm passes, there's something that not quite will come to a close, but there will be something that will find its completion. A season will move from one space to the next. It almost feels like we'll find some closure over the weekend, over something that we may not have realized we needed closure from. And I think that's really profound, because whatever it is that you may need closure from, whether it's an old psychological process, or whether it's an old thought that you have, or whether, especially with Mercury's energy influencing a lot in this time, there could be a lot around the ways in which we look at ourselves, the ways in which we relate to the creative potential that dwells inside of us, right? With Lagus here. This energy of tapping into that, going through that storm, releasing it, and finding that thing that we may not have even known. The surprise, that's the bloom. That's the surprise bloom in the garden. Finding that sense of closure. That does not mean an end, but it may mean the actual opportunity that you needed that inspires you to open a new door. Even if it may be with the same person or the same experience or with the same creative practice that you have. I'm seeing this image of coming back to something that you love, right? Maybe you've always loved to write poetry, or maybe you've always loved to draw, or maybe you always loved to, I don't know, do computer programming or something like this. And you know, your current job took you away from that for a while. But now it's about coming back to that, finding closure with that experience so that you can say, okay, the closure is less about ending that, but coming into contact with it in a different way. Maybe coming into contact with the use of our time differently as well. So I have towards the end of the week, so later this week, I would say like Monday, Tuesday energy, we have Nauthiz hanging out here. And we also have Algis in reverse in Merkstaff position. So Nauthiz is the rune of need, and Algis, to make it simple, is the rune of protection, or the rune of connecting to our higher self, or the rune of the taboo. So to see it in Merkstaff position here alongside need, it feels like you are, or many of us, are releasing the taboos that we've had around what we need out of life. And I think that's a very beautiful energy to tap into, because we are taking off the restrictions that we've had in tapping into our creative potential, in tapping into our sexual desires, in tapping into the things that we may not even known that we needed to tap into. So the message here for me, especially with these two waiting for us at the end of the week, feels like I had mentioned, like this energy of I'm going to really unshackle myself from all the ways in which I try to keep myself from my pleasure, keep myself from my enjoyment, keep myself from my blossoming. So that's what I see for the runes ahead. It's a very powerful week, so I hope you guys enjoy it, especially with the close of the lunar eclipse. There is this new chapter energy coming through for many of us, which I'm very excited about. Please comment below what new chapters you may be starting. I would love to hear that. Thank you again for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week here on the channel. Please like and subscribe. You know what to do. And share the message if you want. Of course, I do want to make sure these messages get to who it needs to get to, you know? So I'll see you guys soon. All right, bye everyone.